Our next speaker is Patrick Uduma. He's a mediative leadership coach.
Yes.
He has a whole lot of experience when it comes to leadership. He's a guru. He is an expert, and whatever he does, or when he gives his trainings, it is so impactful that when you go back to listen and when you go to apply what he's teaching, you will see the results, right? So I'll just do a quick introduction for our next speaker, Mr. Patrick Uduma, or Dr. Patrick Uduma. He's a leading mediative leadership expert and founder of Stand Out with Patrick Uduma, an NGO focused on redefining leadership standards. With over 15 years in the oil and gas industry, and business and financial coach, he has trained over 8,000 leaders. Patrick's influence spans numerous African countries, and he supports leadership development through platforms with Standout Radio and Hive Africa. He is the managing director and CEO of ICREN Services Limited and MD Max. Patrick holds board positions on several organizations and has earned accolades including Nigeria's 100 Most Innovative CEOs in 2020 and Nigeria's Top 50 Inspiring and Definitive CEOs in 2024. Please, ladies and gentlemen, with a rousing welcome, join me, welcome Patrick Uduma. Thank you so much. A virtual welcome.
I mean, sometimes I'll be sleeping. I'm not sure whether it's me that introducing.
We're excited to have you with us. Can't wait for you to take us on your topic, competencies, developing executive competencies, and presence for the C-suite. We are excited. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to my friend and my mentor. I recall when we had this discussion about the growth conference, I didn't believe it was going to be this massive. I know her capability, I know her capacity. Somebody I've watched has inspired me to do what I do today. Thank you so much. My president is here, Dr. Jenny. Thank you so much. The way you have exhibited your expertise and the coordination. I mean, this is massive. That's a typical of you. And the background, everybody. Thank you so much. I don't want to waste much time. Story, what has shaped my life from old house, what we call a most house, is a task that is done by sand. It came out from, we were 18, and this 18 were living in 2 apartments, and thought about mentorship. I don't want to go around there. Was my mom, and I'm going to build competence and presence from a very historical perspective so that people understand how it works. So my mom had identified herself who she was. So she knew who she was. She got married to my dad. My dad, I think she was the 3rd or the 4th wife, because my dad hadn't got a male child. And typical of where I'm coming from, if you don't have a male child, it seems that you have not started. You keep exploring. So my mom was married probably to fill that gap, whether he was going to get a male child. Now, she knew who she was, and she has identified herself. She was going to come with her competence and going to come with her presence. So one of her competence was to cook, and her to cook was to cook for her husband. And she knew that she's going to have it tough being in that typical boardroom, kitchen boardroom. I mean, that's where it starts. But one thing she knew was to believe herself. There was no self-doubt. So she said, I know what I can control. I know my perspective of our marriage. I know my perspective on my duty. I am fearless about it. I'm fearless about my purpose. I'm fearless about my impact. So the first step was to, oh my God.
It's okay. It's okay. It's some technical issues. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Pardon us, audience. I think Patrick is having a little technical issue. We'll just give him about a minute for him to come back to us.
Yeah, I think I'm back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome
Yeah,
back.
sorry. I think I have to change a new device that powered off. Sorry.
Thank you.
So the story went on, said that so my mom would cook and serve my dad. My dad will not eat the food because the other wife would say, don't eat this food. And my mom will believe herself and will drop the food because her competence was to cook, now to serve. She knows who she was. She has no self-doubt. She has entrusted herself. She was not disadvantaged, even though she was a fourth wife or thereabout. But consistently, she was dropping the food. So one day I asked her, how come you're not upset? How come you're not worried that you go back and pick up this food sometimes? Sometimes it's given to other people. She said, Patrick, I know who I am, and I know my service to the world and to my husband. Her eating the food or not eating the food will not discourage me because I know I have determined who I am to find my expression. So the first thing you need to do as a CEO, your life is to find who you are. Don't allow the position of as a wife to define you. Let who you are define your wife role. Don't allow your marriage to define you. Your personality must define your marriage. So your official identity shouldn't drive you, but your true, authentic, powerful, compassionate self should influence you. The day your position start defining you, then you have lost the battle. So what happened? She was consistent and she stayed on. And she said, I'm going to stay in my higher life. My lower life will be insulted, but my higher life will not be insulted. Growing up, I have researched and I started applying it in my life as a person. I mean, I was disadvantaged when I was in the bank because I was in a department, nobody was talking. But because I knew who I was. So first and foremost, as a lady, understand that you are whole and complete, lacking nothing. You don't need external validation. You need your internal validation to be able to procure your values to outside, not outsource your values externally. Because what we find out that we want to be appreciated externally, we want to be clapped for, we want to be honored. No, my mom said, I carry my honor, I carry my validation. So my internal validation and honor will automatically connect to external validation, but the honor will proceed from me. So that's a higher content. That's a higher personality. That's somebody who is self-aware, who has discovered herself. So the title shouldn't drive you, but your core essence should influence your personality. What happened was that it caused what they call this
value drive. Now, when you have identified yourself, now the component of you will give you a richer perspective of who you are and constitute what we call the value self, which is essentially your nature. Listen, if you don't find your nature, you can't nurture or ignite anything meaningful, because nature nurtures. Nature nurtures. Now, nature will be able to give you the component ingredients, what we call the nutrients around you, which is your value system. I mean, she told me a story about my grandmother who did not buy, who did not sell, who was not already educated, but was one of the most richest women in my village because she got a landed property. What did he do? She understood who she was, understand her body, her regiment governance body, which is her value system. And it was kindness, for instance. And she was kind. And so in that kindness, so she deployed kindness to a man who was quite insignificant, who was very significant, but everybody abandoned him because he had a problem. So early morning, what she will do is to boil water, pick up a cake or some cookies, and go to that man, stay with the man, have a conversation. Of course, she knew who she was. She was focusing on who she was and delivering her value, because her value in action will be useless if it's not expressed to the opposition. And what she said was, you're not kind until you're kind to the unkind. So it means that she's not likely going to meet kind people. So she's going to be kind, to express kindness in opposition. I like what Raz talked about, reversal thinking. And that's basically how new generation women should start thinking now. Know who you are. Once you understand yourself, you understand your nature, which is your value system. Your value will shape and direct your energies and expression, because your core as room is a place of character. And what it does, it gives you three aspects of your life. Your mental energy. I like what Chris just talked about, mental energy, the capacity of the mental energy, because how rich and how calm and how confident you are in your ritual world will affect your external world. If you really want to play the boardroom, is your mental energy. Time we talk about mental energy, something people don't go over there. But you see, one thing I learned from my mom, she was ever excited and dancing, especially when she picked that food back. Her fulfillment is not that the food was eaten. Her fulfillment, that her expression was from her value system. So it gave her a richer mental concept of who she was. And, which directed her emotion. And when women say, oh, I'm emotional, that's stupidity. What is emotion? Emotion is engagement of your certain emotion attribute, whether it's hating, whether it's loving, or all those. You should be able to categorize it and know how to utilize them to express external factors. So for instance, if you promote me, I'm likely going to be sad about it, or I'm going to be happy. I can't say, oh, I'm emotional, I'm crying. So in that way, you begin to understand your emotional energy. What does happen is that it gives you what we call the focus energy. Focus energy is basically where you believe in yourself. You know who you are. Like my mom knows who she was, and she knows her core values. Like my grandmother knows her core values. And I mean, that's how she traded upon and got everything she needed to do. So with that, it creates a strong presence. So capacity, capability, and competencies is first of all in your core essence, who you are, knowing who you are. I wake up every day. I mean, I know who I am. I mean, I don't need anybody. I tell myself I'm a builder, for instance, or I'm a transformer. And so my values are inspired and informed by my identity, who I am. And that gives me completeness and wholesomeness. So what does present means? means that because I recognize myself and I know that I have a value, I also respect other people because they have value. So now their value, I will be able to inclusively know that how do I interact with these people? Don't forget, my father had a value. My mom had a value. Their value did not sink. But my mom utilizes my father's value to reinforce her value so that she ultimately be able to push herself to have resilience, have ability to have mental doggedness and toughness. And it's not a physical thing. One thing that stood from my mother was that she was so impersonal about external factor, because that's what happened in boardroom. I mean, my first job was with a very successful lawyer who was in the board of directors and all that. She was always stressed out when she comes back because she was proving. Because when people challenge you and you become personal with it, you take it in. And our life is not supposed to take in. We're supposed to give out. That is more blessed to give than to take in. Now, the other thing that my mother was not attached, which is a burden to her. Oh, I'm a wife, so treat me like a wife. No, all that stories and narrative, she changed her own narrative and enforced it through her value disposition. And that will bring you to the place you are not clinging. You have no preference. There's no conditional external expectation. Let me say that again. There is no clinging to preferences, nor conditional external expectation, because expectation is a trap. So what it does, it makes you so fearless and unstained. Let me, because of time, what was the attribute of my mother in presence? So it means we has purity. In fact, when I talk about purity, I recall one of the strongest force of Steve Jobs is purity. If we check it out, 6 of them, but I'm not going to talk about it. Purity. Purity means that you're unstained by external factor. You're unstained. And that stain brings about like purity of heart. And it gives you what we call the healthy mind that gives you a sound body. Now, this sound, healthy mind within you will interpret and influences your extension, which the next one, purity, and we'll talk about poise. Poise means your dressing. And if you look at most people who are comfortable with themselves and who are complete and holistic, what happens is that they are simple. If you watch how Noella dresses, you see, she doesn't talk so much about a lot of things. She's so simple. But when you look at her and talk about her, there's a bit of completeness and wholeness. So her holistic inward relationship with herself will be able to bring her into that poise. You don't struggle around it. In fact, that's one thing you need to do, because when you step up in boardroom, there's a sense, the smell of sweetness around you. The next thing you're going to do, there's a power of concentration. Don't focus on how people make you feel. Focus on how you make yourself feel. Don't focus on how people make you feel, whether they are going to approve of you, whether they're going to be agitated, or whether they're going to do that or just no. Focus on how you choose to feel. I do that a whole lot when I go into board. I focus and I have predetermined, we call it the designed life. Not the default life. Design life, I'm aware how I want to feel. I put it on my mental model. And so that will give me clarity. And so I concentrate on that. That gives me the next one, what I call calmness. That is a beautiful place to be. And you have to train your faculties from the dressing your bed every morning, or from washing your plate at night. There's a sense of calmness that you develop, that you're untroubled. And the last one in present, be glad. Be glad. Now it's going to transform into what I call TSSSSC. TSSSC. What does it happen? What it means that there is trust factor here. You trust yourself. I trust myself I will deliver my job. I trust myself that I will create an avenue that people would depend on me, because trust is dependability. So you have to have an internal dependability, because once you trust yourself, it affects everything around you. So you can now give out the energy of trust, which comes back to you. But if you have self-doubt, you're likely going to find out validation outside to complete you, because you're complete and whole, which happened to my mom. So my father's attitude couldn't demean her nor devalue her, because she's poised. And so what that trust does, it makes you secured. And when you see somebody that's secured, they don't prove, they don't defend. You hardly notice their emotional relevance. Why? Because the moment men understand your weakness through emotional anger or resentment or all those energy, what happened? They continue to. So secured means I'm secured with whatever happens because I'm open to outcome. That will present you sweetness. Sweetness is where you're embodied with acceptance, where you're embodied with empathy, where you're embodied with, letting go of all the prejudices to be sweet. And once you become sweet in boardroom, what happened that you are a charm. You don't force it, because don't forget there's a trust. You trust yourself. You're not looking for external validation. You're secured, and there's sweetness. Now it propels you to be service-oriented like my mom. She was more service delivery, more custom about that, rather than looking for the acceptance. I mean, it helps you to be more aware, even when your service is not up to depth, or probably does not profile or match your profile, because you'll be the first one who will test your service, like a woman who is cooking in the kitchen, who will test the food to be sure before it's served. So you serve it. That builds such a great confidence. Now, in rounding it up, I had what I call the SSS. Number one is when you are sound, which is what is required in boardroom. Be sound. It makes you safe. What it means, there's no self-doubt, there's no condemnation, there's no all those elementary base energy that flood your mind. Oh, would they accept me because I'm a woman? You are a woman of great honor, esteemed. Like Ahmed said, we also need help. So you need help, we need help. That brings our richer interconnectedness so that we can form a whole. Don't focus on weakness, focus on the strength, that soundness. The moment you start self-sabotaging yourself, you will lose the competence that you bring in. It will affect your dressing. In fact, it will affect your makeup. So sound self, then sweet secured. What eventually happened, you begin to find out that you are becoming more harmonious. So I call them harmony, honor, and happiness. What is harmony, honor, and happiness? Harmony is respecting people's opinion. People are going to speak from whether they are in a low place, whether they are secured or insecure. And now, if you're in a secure place and you speak a language, don't judge them from their standard, but harmonizes with them from where they are through understanding. That is what we call the peace management. So it means I wake up and another person must have an idea. The other people have their idea. So the integrated and inclusive of our mind harmonizes. So my opinion is not superior, but all part of the contributing hub in the orbit. What that means that you have power. Once you're in harmony, it brings honor. And once you're in harmony, it brings a sweet of happiness. But once you are in disharmony state, you will find out there's a friction and tension. That's where stress comes up. That's where separation comes in. And once you separate, you judge. So eventually, you lose power when you are not in harmony and when you are not honoring. Then happiness declined. But once you acknowledge other people and accept them, their individual differences and opinion based on the evolutionary processes, because we are not in one knowledge base, you will realize that that harmony gives you honoring. What killed us in boardroom is that we are not in harmony. We are fighting superiority, and superiority will just disconnect us because we're finding specialness and separation and self-centeredness.
Thank you.
So,
thank you so much. You have 1 minute left, please.
So your performance is a function of your harmonious state and your honoring state in the boardroom. But before it, let yourself know you are whole, you are complete, you bring your value irrespective of who comes. That's your concentrating point. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Whoa, wow. My notebook is filled. Thank you so much, Patrick. I wish we had more hours so you could delve into more info.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's on point. Thank you. I like the TSSC, the SSS, the HH. I like all your acronyms. It helps you remember how to apply all the things you are teaching us. Thank you so much. I like the fact you talked about being your authentic self in the sense of it's nature that nurtures, right? So finding who you are, despite what position you have, is key to expressing yourself or being the best you. If I put it that way, it's very insightful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate your wealth of experience, and every word you spoke had a nugget of wisdom inside. We can go back and keep taking on from everything you have said. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a few questions that I would like to ask. I know people have some questions also in the comment section, and I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up, fire, people clapping, applauding you. Thank you. It has been very rich and insightful session with you, Patrick. So the question that I would like to ask, the exuding confidence, gravitas, and grit are some key competencies I know an executive must have. But how can one gain these skills? How can one gain these skills?
Most times we live life from external to internal, which pushes pressures on us. You have to build capacity from within. In fact, enjoying yourself. I call it be the boss of yourself, be your observer. And one of the ways I started building confidence was keeping my promise to myself. So I started by saying, I'm going to make my bed. And until when I read it by a certain military guy, I was blown out. So I made myself that I was going to make my bed. So I kept the promise. And that making of bread built a lot, because once you keep your word, you find that the more you do it, the more creative you become. Now, you see, this bed will not come back to thank you. Your confidence is internal. And when people talk about confidence with that, we think that we are better than people. No. The moment you feel that you are better than people, it activates that you are in a lower place, because you need to be able to make people feel comfortable. The essence that you have a confident person is how confident people are around you. So building that capacity. Now I'm doing something else. So one day I saw my security man, I knew they were tired. And I from my office, I saw what it was. I went down, wore my suit. I went down. I said, you know what? Go take a break. I'll be opening the gates. Now, what I wanted to do was, is it position that influences my confidence, or is it service? Or is it attainment that build? Because attainment is a fallout of what had proceeded out of you to external. So, I mean, I could open the gate. My colleagues, I open the gates, and they are, wow, what are you doing? And most times, often, when people greet me, sir, I want to be able to think, is it my dressing that makes them call me sir? Or what? So I will remove my cloth and go back to that place. And if the great said, sir, that means now it is no longer the dressing or the position. It is now an inner essence that is coming out, affecting people or affecting my environment.
Wow. Thank you. Hi. Yes. Thank you so much. That was spot on. Thank you. I have one more question. There are still more questions and a lot of comments in the comment section, but because of time, I'll just take this question. What are some key strategies to elevate your executive presence as a woman in the boardroom? Key strategies.
So, observation is so powerful. People flow into environment without tactful organization. As a woman, when you get into a position, don't be quick to speak. Take time to analyze. In fact, be the last person to speak if it's possible. Hold your peace. Look at all their thought processes and thought pattern. By the time you look at them, you begin to find out their strengths and their weaknesses. When people find a way to get into their weak place and you highlight it, not condemning them, but be able to highlight and present yourself as ability to solve that problem, you will find out that you are integrated. Don't let acceptance find a weakness within the boardroom. Be that pillar, be that reference point. It could be that everybody talk and nobody listen, but you be the one to listen. Listening power could just give you access to everybody because it's what you give. When you're talking, everybody will listen. It could also be respect. Now, you're not respecting them because they are men. You're respecting their opinion. Because if you give out respect, they are likely going to return back that respect. If you give a fight, they will give back that fight. It's a mental connection, which is an energy transfer.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Wow. Please, let's appreciate our speaker, Patrick Uduma. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We've taken so much from your session. This is amazing. And we're going to put it to practice because it's one thing to listen, it's another thing to practice what you have learned. That's where knowledge becomes power because you can utilize the knowledge you have received. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.